It's a Wednesday episode of Locked On Grizzlies. Memphis plays once again, this time against the Boston Celtics. But before we get to another preseason contest, we got some concerns to try to squash a little bit. People worried about Cedric Coward, worried about the front court for the Memphis Grizzlies. It's all going to be okay. Check me out being positive. Let's like that here on Locked On Grizzlies. Let's lock in.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to this special midweek edition of Locked On Grizzlies, and it is special because the one, the only, the incomparable, the handsome, the talented, the award-winning, the suave, the debonair, Damichael, Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal there in Memphis, Tennessee. He is with me. That's right, the dynamic.
You added a couple more adjectives this time, Joe. I like it.
Sir, I'm going to be honest with you. I would do a Locked On Damichael podcast.
No.
That's how smitten
I
am.
Nobody's watching that. Nobody's watching that.
Oh, I would. You know who else probably would? My mom and my dad, because I would be hosting it. My mom and dad are probably listening and watching as we speak.
Shout out to mom and dad. Yeah.
Shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Mullinax. But anyway, thank you so much for being with us on this edition of the podcast, wherever you are, however you may be related to myself or Damichael, or if you're just a fan of the Memphis Grizzlies, we appreciate you being here on the show. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. Here on Locked On Grizzlies, make sure you're liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, YouTube, literally anywhere you get a podcast. Become an everydayer. We are so grateful to all of you that check out every episode of the show, whether it's Damichael going solo, myself going solo, days like today where we're both together. It is much appreciated. Make sure that you are subscribing, hanging out with us each and every time that an episode drops. Damichael, I'm going to be honest with you. It wasn't the best day on social media for Jeff and Debbie Mullinax's baby boy for a variety of different reasons. Well, we don't have to get too into it, right? But I do want to shout out our mutual friend Anthony Sane, who made a joke about, I think Roman Cleary is his name, over at Grind City Media. He did the up-close video with the massive head for one of their Memphis Tigers coverage things. And multiple people at the same time, I got multiple notifications at the same time, ping, 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 talking about my massive head in the video that I do right here at Locked On Grizzlies.
You created your own phenomenon, Joe. You remember those things, the fat heads?
I am the literal fat head. I'm the originator of the fat head, just by my existence. But the reason I bring that up is I feel like I wish that I had done like a Locked On short for Cedric Coward. I know you wrote about him yesterday for the Commercial Appeal. It was a great piece. I read everything that Damichael writes. And that was kind of a narrative coming out of the Grizzlies game against the Pistons. I talked on yesterday's show about how a lot was kind of lost in the wake of the Ja Morant injury news.
Yeah.
Cedric Coward struggled in a lot of ways, offensively in particular, in terms of scoring the ball. You hear all these things about his efficiency and how he was in college. Definitely didn't look that way in his NBA debut, at least preseason debut, but he took a charge. You could see the physical size, the length that he provides in terms of wingspan. There was a lot of potential there, and I was kind of surprised, partner. It seemed like some folks were downright down on Cedric Coward after one preseason game. I want to stress, whether it's me saying that the Grizzlies are going to go 82-0 or be the first team to go 98-0 in the history of the NBA, or me saying that I regret to inform you that the Memphis Grizzlies are once again bad. Everything involving a performance in the preseason should be said in jest, especially when it's that extreme. With a first-round pick who hasn't played a lot of meaningful basketball in about a year and a half, it seems kind of a rushed choice to say anything about what Cedric Coward did outside of it was good to just see him playing basketball again.
Because that's what it was. It was good to see him play basketball again, point blank period. What we've talked about a lot over the course of the preseason, not just here on this show, but in interviews with Tomas Isolo in particular, but with the players as well, is the idea of the process over the sheer results. And that looks different for every player. It looks a certain way for the Grizzlies team. And in the case of Cedric Coward, I don't care what he shoots percentage-wise from the field over the rest of the course of the preseason. You know why I don't care? Because it's about the process. And the process for him is a lot different than certain guys. The process for him is this is his first time stepping on the floor in a competitive basketball game since November 2024. He didn't get to play Summer League where the Javon Smalls and Jalen Wells and those guys got a sort of head start or whatever the case may be. He didn't get that. He didn't get cleared until sometime in August. And even then, you playing pickup with your guys. Like, they're not trying to hurt you. They're not going to do things that guys are going to do in some games. Like, look how Jalen Wells and Cedric Coward and all those guys are picking up full court. Like, sure, they're going to ramp up the intensity in these workouts, but you're their teammate. They're not trying to hurt you. They look, that's happened before when Desmond Bane came on the chase down block with Gigi Jackson in the workout and he broke his foot. They don't want that to happen. They don't want that to happen. So now, with all that being factored in, the process leading to the result is you want Cedric Coward to be a stud. You want him to be one of the best players in this draft. Like Scottie Pippen Jr. said, he's been around a lot of lottery pick rookies, and he's one of the better ones he's ever seen. You want to see that played out. You want to see what Scottie Pippen Jr. Said. You want to see that verified. And it doesn't have to happen right now because you know why? These numbers don't count. That air ball that he shot or the blocked floater, Joe, no one's going to be checking for that because if you go right now to Cedric Coward's career stats, it's going to say 0-0-0-0-0-0-0. But when we get here to October 22nd, Cedric Coward better be playing some decent basketball at least because he'll have 4 to 5 preseason games of action. And when we talk about the process, you know, he said it himself. He said, you mentioned the story in the story. He said, look, I like the shots that I got. He mentioned the floater was the one bad shot. He said, and you know, he said, I put in too much work for those shots not to fall. And I believe that because when you watch him shoot, it looks like it's going in. It looks like it's going in. So I know those will eventually go in a little bit more for him. And then, of course, he hadn't played in so long. So I know there's some game speed things. And don't get me wrong. Like, I'll save it for another day. But I have, like, my quote-unquote questions about Cedric Coward, but at the same time, I still think he can be a really impactful player for this Grizzlies team.
And I'll do you one better, partner, since everybody likes to think I'm a big negative Nancy now. If Cedric Coward isn't the guy that you and I and the rest of Grizzlies followers and fans want him to be this season, I'll say I don't care about that. And the reason that I will say that is because you have Gigi Jackson, who we'll talk more about later on in the show. You have Vince Williams Jr. You have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. You have Jalen Wells. You have numerous players that have logged meaningful NBA minutes, that have gotten opportunity to be in that spot of development. Cedric Coward has not had that chance yet. So in an ideal world, we're talking a month from now. They've played a few regular season games, a week or two of games. Cedric Coward's in the rotation and he looks good. That'd be tremendous and I'd be thrilled. But if Cedric Coward is still finding his way after all that he's been through, knowing the context of his situation, I'm going to be okay with that too. There's going to be people that try to write this kid off way too soon, bringing up the Coach Thorpe article about comparing him to Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. Maybe it was crazy to make that comp to begin with, but it's also just as crazy, in my opinion, to say that it's not true because of one preseason performance. I'm pretty sure that Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant had some stinkers when they were in their rookie campaigns, especially in the preseason. Yeah. And even if you wanted to look that information up, it would be extremely difficult to do so because it was for a damn preseason game. Like, this is not that serious, partner. I know it's good for content, but I feel like we're overreacting to what this guy did in his first meaningful basketball, as you put it, in literally 10 months.
Yeah. And again, like, it comes with the hype. It comes with the expectation. And, you know, people have been hearing all these good things about him. And what stood out to me was what Tomas Isolo said yesterday, more than anything that Cedric Coward said, because, of course, a player's going to say, yeah, my teammates told me to keep shooting and all these things. But the head coach, who, if you haven't noticed, what I like about Mr. Isolo is he's an honest guy. Like, he straight up said that
not a ton of coach speak with Isolo.
He said he had a rough night. He said Cedric Coward had a rough. I was just telling the coaches he had a rough night. I was like, man, Taylor Jenkins didn't really tell us. He tell coaches about players' individual performances like that. But anyways, the point here is the fact that even after he said that, no concern. He said that, look, you have to be patient with him, and that's what I would expect, and that's why one of the questions is for those who were listening to those training camp interviews we had with Tomas Isla. One of the questions that I asked him after the third practice, I believe it was do you approach this situation with Cedric Coward different than any other rookies or anything like that? And at the time, to some people, probably, why would he approach him different? Some people are looking at it like that. But I asked that question in preparation for this moment, in preparation for when he gets that first game experience and he looks a step slower or something like that. And Isolo said pretty much what he said at the time. Yeah, he's being patient with them because of that process. So guess what? Look, they've emphasized it. I'm going to emphasize it because it's preseason. Joe Mullinax emphasizes it as much as anyone. The guy didn't even know who the Grizzlies were playing at the time we were recording the last show because it's more about the process than the results. And in the case of Cedric Coward, yeah, you want to see progress over the course of these. Like, you don't want to see him have as rough of a night as he did in this game. I want to be clear. We ain't just saying it's okay to have stinkers, but at the same time, you need to be okay with the progress because he's a rookie and he's not going to step into the league, being the best things in sliced bread.
For the record, the Grizzlies played the Boston Celtics tonight. I do.
There you go, Joe. Look at you. Look at you.
I'm locking in a little bit more. I'll take the responsibility
Grizzlies,
for Cedric Coward not playing as well, because if I don't know who they're playing, how in the world can I expect Cedric Coward to ball out in a meaningless basketball game? So it's the Celtics, and we'll talk about that later on here in the show. But let us know in the comments. Hit us up on X at Damichael C, at Joe Mullinax. How are you feeling about Cedric Coward? Are you concerned? Are they overblown? Sounds like Damichael and I are on the same page, as we often are. Not too concerned just yet. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, something that I am concerned about, and I know that Damichael is maybe not as much as me, is what's going on in the front court and rebounding in particular. We're going to try to get creative solving that problem coming up next here on Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth. I know that I can't, or at least I couldn't until I got Monarch Money in my life, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. So be like me. Choose Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you're putting off organizing your finances, Monarch is there for you. It does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel like you're in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can maximize investments. You can increase savings rates. Review your finances with your significant other, wife, husband, financial advisor, whoever it might be, while you keep a clear view of your financial health week to week as well as long term. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNBA. So Damichael, I know you were there in person, and you'll probably be there in person again tonight, if I had to imagine. And the Grizzlies are not very good at rebounding right now, and that probably doesn't surprise anybody because they're down Zach Edey, who's their main force on the glass. They're down Jaren Jackson Jr., who, although he's not a good rebounder, at least not good enough in the eyes of many, he is a 6'11" guy who, in theory, could rebound. Brandon Clark is another big who is not an elite rebounder, but he could theoretically help in that role. The Grizzlies are down some guys, and Tomas Isolo has talked about different strategies for trying to address the rebounding while their bigs are out. Something's got to give, and this is something that, again, when you watch a preseason game, Cedric Coward misses a bunch of shots, who cares, right? You're looking for trends. You're looking for confirmation of things that you might have been nervous about from the team as a whole going into this, and I think the front court is a major concern at this moment. At least it is for me. Jock Landale ain't enough. Right? He's just not enough at this stage of the game. But Steven Adams ain't walking through that door. So how do you address the problem? For me, I'm running in the opposite direction, if I'm being honest. And I am looking for ways to create mismatches in the front court that if I'm not going to be able to rebound anyway, I might as well have somebody like a G.G. Jackson at the 4. I might as well. I know Santi Aldama either refuses or the coaches don't want to put him there. I'm putting Santi at the 5. Right? This is me as Coach Mullinax speaking. Coach Isolo maybe isn't going to do that. But I am, if they're not going to rebound, I'm not going to pretend like I can recreate 7'4", 290 pounds in the aggregate, because you can't. I'm going to try to create offensive mismatches. So where you might have the advantage on the glass, I'm going to have the advantage in terms of isolation scoring, athleticism, getting to the rim, cutting off of missed baskets, finding ways to get looks, and putting you in a spot where you have to deal with me just as much as I have to deal with the reality of not being able to rebound. Again, that's probably not what Isolo is going to do, but the title of this segment is Getting Front Court Creative. I would go in the direction of creating mismatches in the opposite way, essentially punting rebounding, because again, Jock Landale is not enough in my opinion.
Right. Joe, this is one of those moments where I'm going to disagree with you because
I figured it would be. You lack imagination, Damichael.
I think it's just my imagination going in a different direction. So I think look, I like, don't get me wrong. I love the idea of, hey, let's go smaller. And look, we're not going to be a good rebounding team because that's something you said. That's something I've said. And I've put more attention on the lack of secondary playmaking, but right there beside it, rebounding. Those are the two things to me that stand out above anything else. Some people will say turnovers, but I think those two things are head and shoulders above anything else of the main issues with this roster right now. Because, and I've said it, I think I said it on X as well, as long as Zach Edey's out, they're not going to be a good rebounding team. That's just, there has to be the understanding of that's going to be the case. This is not going to be a top 5 rebounding team unless Zach Edey is playing a whole bunch of games. Now, getting back to what you were talking about, Joe, I like the idea of being able to go small, spread guys out, put Santi at the 5. But in that scenario, my thing is you're compounding the issue. Now you go from being a bad rebounding team to probably the worst rebounding team in the NBA. And then on top of that, when you put those wings in those positions, they better be good enough. And look, we want these wings to be good enough, but how many wings played good in that first preseason game? It's the first preseason game, but there weren't a lot of those wings that really played well. So I think when you do that, because you're basically saying we're going to put wings at the 2, 3, 4, we're going to play probably 5 or 6 guys. You got to have the guys that could really get the job done in that situation. We want to believe Gigi Jackson can do that. We want to believe Vince Williams can do that. And we want to believe Cedric Coward can do that. But I'm not putting myself in that position because I know what I'm getting from Jock Landale. And that's the point here. Like, Jock Landale is, you mentioned it, he's not a very good defensive rebounder, so to speak. Santi has been a solid defensive rebounder, at least since last season. Jock Landale is going to be a good, offensive rebounder for you. I think he only had 1 or 2 maybe in his first preseason game, but that is kind of what he's been known for. So I think you'll get a little bit more from him in that area as the process goes on. But yeah, so I'm of the mindset, you keep this thing how it is, in particular because of everything that I just said. And then the other reason is you got a new offensive system here. I am not trying to veer away from this new offensive system. And then when not Steven Adams, you would be good to get Steven Adams, but when Zach Edey and Jaren Jackson Jr. get back, you're like, all right, now back to the system we've been working on our training camp. Like, no, that's not how this works. You have the personnel to quote unquote still get into their system. Like, Jock Landale is here because of his screen setting, because of his ability to crash the offensive glass. Lean into that. You still got Santi, at the 4 as a solid defensive rebounder. So lean into those things, because then with Jaren Jackson Jr. and Zach Edey get back, the transition will be a little bit more seamless. But if you go away from that and you're playing 5-out basketball and all that, you're not going to be playing 5-out when Zach Edey gets back. And I just feel like that'll make this transition period even tougher. So it's a combination of, look, I don't trust the wings yet for that type of basketball, because that guy you put at the 4, like you said, Joe, he's got to be a walking mismatch. Who is the walking mismatch right now that we though can go out there and dominate somebody at the 4? Because he would have to, because on the other end you're going to pay. But I don't see that player right now. I see guys who potentially could be that player, but I'm not ready to do that. I'm just more focused on, let's keep Santi at the 4, Jock Landale at the 5. Let's play these lineups, because when Zach Edey, when Jaren Jackson Jr. get back, the transition will be much more seamless.
Whew, I got to tell you, to put that much faith in Jock Landale.
It's not
You and Mrs. Landale, I got to tell you.
It's the system. You're getting the system in my faith in Jock Landale.
First
of all, he played good. He played good in that first game. Now, so don't you?
What was one of the reasons he played Michael Cole? Because he made 2 threes. Guess who else would have made 2 threes in that game? Who else? Riddle me this, Damichael Cole. Who else do you think might have hit 2 threes in that game against the Detroit Pistons?
What are you about to say, Zach Edey?
I was about to say Jay Huff. Jay Huff would have hit those 2 threes. Jay Huff would have been a better rim protector than what Jock Landale was.
Would
but
he?
You know what? Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, we can talk more about that later. I think that this kind of brings us back to the Isolo system, right? You have seen it in action.
That's what it boils down to.
I will acknowledge, I defer to you. You have been at practices. You were at training camp. You've been at games. You have seen far more of it than me.
Mm-hmm.
I need to see more. You have seen enough where you want to continue to invest in that system. And again, it is preseason, in fairness, so it is wise to
this is when you invest in that system.
The process. I think that's fair. I'm just trying to have a little fun here. I'm not going to tell Gigi Jackson that you believe in Jock Landale better than him. I won't pass that along
that's
to
not
Gigi.
True.
I mean, that's kind of what I just heard. I'm just saying.
You know how I feel. You're trying to put Gigi at the, and everybody knows how I feel about Gigi at the 4.
Yeah, but then Jock Landale showed up. Let us know on X. Let us know on X how you're feeling at Damichael C, at Joe Mullinax. Hit us up in the comments. I tell you what, I'm disappointed that Gigi is falling out of fit. No, I'm just kidding. I want to stress. I'm joking. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, we're going to close out this episode of the show looking at tonight's game against the Boston Celtics. How can the Grizzlies find a way to find their footing coming out of that tough first preseason game? Stick around here on Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here. FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I don't know if you know this or not, Damichael Cole, but the best quarterback in the National Football League resides in Washington, baby. The Commanders, my boy Jaden Daniels. He's got a big game coming up this Monday against the Chicago Bears, and I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play that game. I can build parlays, do player props, and even follow live lines during the game if I want to. It makes watching football all that much more exciting when you have a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Check out my boy Jaden Daniels. Manders by 100, baby. Manders by 100. Closing out this edition of the show, talking with Damichael Cole, my wonderful co-host, Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal, noted Jock Landale lover. It is I, Joe Mullinax, the co-host of the show.
You're trying
noted
to start
Gigi Jackson.
You're trying to start something. You're going to have these people thinking that I want this third string big.
Hey, I mean, I just thought we were cool with, 21-year-olds getting those reps, but that's fine. Let's keep feeding Jock Landale. Anyway, tonight the Grizzlies have another meaningless preseason basketball game. Only meaningless in terms of result. I do want to stress that. We do care about how they perform. You want to see a couple shots get knocked down for Cedric Coward. To be honest with you, I thought somebody that struggled a little more, that went under the radar, so to speak, was Scottie Pippen Jr., especially considering how strongly he played against the Oklahoma City Thunder in that postseason
That's
series.
Probably why I went under the radar.
Yeah, I think that is probably why. But I also think that you could say that it went under the radar because of all of the depth issues. Scottie Pippen Jr. as a reserve guard was playing with a bunch of guys that he's almost certainly not going to log a ton of time with in the regular season. So I think that not worrying about Scottie Pippen Jr., not worrying about Cedric Coward, for me, it's a priority, believe it or not, on the positive. You saw a lot of good Ty Jerome things in that Grizzlies game against the Pistons. You saw a lot of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope things. You saw some good Jalen Wells things, especially on the defensive end. Man, you want to keep building upon that.
And Wells, that boy is a dog, man.
Yes, and he was a lot of fun to watch on Monday. Not as fun as Jock Landale, but still fun. So I think when it comes to Jalen Wells and Ty Jerome and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, you want to keep building upon that positivity while at the same time finding ways to gang rebound, finding ways to have bodies at the rim and not allow for things like what the Pistons did in that 50-point second quarter on Monday night to occur. You want to find growth and stability within what you're doing. If the team loses to the Boston Celtics, but they compete in a more effective and, positive way, that is growth at this stage of the season with no John Morant, no Jaren Jackson Jr., no Brandon Clark, no Zach Edey. That should definitely be the priority.
I get that. And once again, I'm going to go to a different direction. And I love the answer, though. I love the answer because those are your guys, right? Those are the guys you're going to be depending on to play a lot of minutes over the course of this season, and you want them to continue to be really good. So I completely understand what you're saying there. But I'm going to shift the other way because if you look at the plus minus from that first game, I mean, it is astronomical. When you look at those guys you just mentioned, Ty Jerome, Jalen Wells, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, even Jock Landale, Mr. Joe Mullinax, all those guys were +8 and above. Like it was. And then when you get to the Scottie Pippen Jr.'s, Cedric Coward, G.G. Jackson, Vince Williams, all these guys are -20 and above. Some as low as -30. So I want to see some of those other players step up. Somebody, because at the end of the day, you got John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., Zach Edey, Brandon Clark, and then you have those guys that you mentioned. I think you're still going to need a couple more players in this group to kind of emerge. We've talked about that, right? Who's going to be between G.G. Jackson, Cedric Coward, Vince Williams Jr.? Like somebody has to be, that guy. And it'd be great if a couple of them turn into those guys. But you need somebody else. There was too many players, quite frankly, that didn't have good nights. And I want to see someone else make me feel like, you know what? Okay, there it is. Because at times when I saw Vince Williams Jr. moving around on the floor, I said, he's picking up full court. I'm like, oh, it looks like the old Vince a little bit. But then you look at the stat sheet, and I'm like, I don't know yet. And again, going to your point, maybe it's some of the guys he was playing with or whatever the case may be, the front court issues that they had. Because, no disrespect to Omax and PJ Hall, but, they're on two-way contracts right now. So it's like you're still trying to figure those guys out and learn the way that they play. Whereas some of the other guys, you played with them a little bit more. So it's a mixed bag. Like the chemistry has to come along. But I want to see more from Vince Williams, from G.G. Jackson, from Cedric Coward, Scottie Pippen Jr., as you mentioned, because they're going to need some of those guys. It doesn't have to be all of them. I'm not saying all of them have to play very well, but somebody out of that group needs to have a really good game for me.
Somebody's got to pop. And, worst case scenario, they could always just give all of those minutes to Jock Landale, your boy. And it'll really,
if they give Jock Landale all those minutes, it won't be me on this show who's yelling about it. It won't be me.
That's fair. We can all agree, and that's not true. We can all but Damichael agree.
Tell you what, you keep making these sarcasm jokes. Those people from the land down under, you're going to make them come up.
Yeah, well, as long as they're listening, as long as they're watching Locked On Grizzlies, that's fine. We can all agree, except for Damichael, because he can't agree given his role. As long as John Conchar isn't getting those minutes, I'll happily allow for Jock Landale to get that run. But shout out to John Conchar, Johnny Basketball, getting some good cardio in the preseason game on Monday. Thank you so much for being with us on this edition of Locked On Grizzlies. It is much appreciated. Make sure that next time, or for your next listen, I should say, that you are checking out Locked On Fantasy Basketball. I am a huge fan of Josh Lloyd. I know that Damichael is as well. Josh hosts the #1 fantasy basketball podcast, giving you daily tips and helping you win your league, all while making you a smarter NBA fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. They're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Damichael, the next time that we are together, we will be talking Grizzlies Celtics. We will be talking about hopefully some Cedric Coward buckets, hopefully some Jock Landale dominant performance. And we're certainly going to be looking ahead into some important practices coming up, ways that the Grizzlies can respond, and hopefully some continued positive social media interactions. Jaren Jackson Jr. is out here posting close on, I think it was Instagram or whatever it was. So maybe we're moving towards a reality where we don't have to talk about G.G. Jackson and Jock Landale as much. Yeah,
I mean, look, and I'll just say this. If anybody out there is really worried about John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. Right now, don't be. that should be the least of your worries right now from availability standpoint. Those guys will be fine. And then sooner rather than later, I'll say that. But this game will just be another game that we can kind of add on another layer of what does this team look like under Tomas Isolo. That was just kind of round one. But, I'm big on trends. I'm big on, certain things. Like, let's see what's to come of this team that's going to be more of a new feature or something that's potentially going to be a weakness. Like, we have an idea of what some of those things may be based on the construction of the roster. But Isolo's system could, make up some of those weaknesses, or they could make some of those weaknesses even louder. And now, another game, especially against a Celtics team that has something to prove with a few of their guys, is going to be fun to watch.
The biggest thing for me is once Ja and Jaren and Zach Edey and Brandon Clark, once all these guys are healthy, we got to figure out who's going to have to sit on the bench and not be a starter anymore because Jock Landale.
Jock Landale's going to play on. Oh, God. This is turned into the Locked On Jock Landale show.
Locked On Jock Landale. Shout out to Jock Landale. Shout out to Johnny.
Shout out to the land down under. Get Joe Mullinax for what he's doing right now.
Shout out to Australia and New Zealand and all those wonderful places down underneath the bottom of the world. I think that's right. Anyway, make sure you're checking out each and every time.
Look what he thinks of you people. The bottom.
Locked On Geography. Locked On Geography here. Make sure you're liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing before the show gets too far off the rails on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, wherever you get podcasts. We are appreciative of you. Become an everydayer. Hang out with us each and every time that an episode drops. The same will be true tomorrow. Until then, I'm Joe. He's Damichael. Stay locked in. Have a great rest of your day. The Grizzlies play basketball tonight. Jock Landale plays basketball tonight. See ya.